Little boy saluted a Navy ship with tears. The captain's response shook the entire harbor. The sun was just beginning to dip over the horizon when a crowd gathered at the harbor to watch the Navy ship prepare for departure. Families lined the docks, waving flags and snapping photos, their excitement blending with the bittersweet weight of goodbyes. Among them stood a little boy named Ethan, no older than 8, with tousled brown hair, a worn-out backpack slung over his shoulder, and eyes that brimmed with tears. Unlike the others, no family stood beside him. He gripped a tiny American flag in one hand and nervously wiped his face with the other, staring at the massive ship with an intensity that drew curious glances from passers-by. Ethan's father had once been a Navy sailor, a man he adored but barely remembered. 2 years ago, a folded flag had been handed to his mother after his father's ultimate sacrifice overseas. His mother often told him, "Your dad was a hero, Ethan. He loved the sea, but he loved you more." That memory replayed in his heart as he stood alone at the dock. When the ship's horn bellowed and the sailors lined the rails in uniform precision, Ethan's chest tightened. With trembling hands, he raised his flag high and gave the sharpest salute his little arm could muster, just the way his father had taught him in the backyard years ago. His lips quivered, and hot tears slipped down his cheeks. At first, no one noticed. The crowd was too busy cheering. But on the bridge of the ship, Captain Marcus Hale, an experienced officer with decades of service, spotted the boy. Something about that small, lonely figure saluting with all his heart stopped him cold. He could see the tears glinting in the fading sunlight, and in that moment, Marcus thought of his own son, safe at home, waiting for him. His throat tightened. This wasn't just a salute. It was a cry for connection, for acknowledgement, for love. Without a word, the captain gave a command that stunned the crew: halt departure. The ship slowed, engines easing back as sailors looked around in confusion. A murmur rippled through the harbor as onlookers realized the Navy vessel, scheduled to leave on precise military time, was stopping. The captain walked out onto the deck, lifted his hand to his brow, and returned the little boy's salute with unwavering pride. The sailors followed, hundreds of arms snapping to their brows in unison, saluting the boy who stood trembling but tall. The entire harbor fell silent, the air thick with awe. Ethan's eyes widened. He looked around as strangers began to notice him, many covering their mouths or wiping tears. For a moment, he didn't feel small or forgotten. He felt like his father was right there beside him, standing tall in spirit. The captain then spoke through the ship's loudspeaker, his voice echoing across the water: "Young man, we see you. Today, you remind us of why we serve, of who we protect, and of the families who sacrifice. This salute is for your father, and for you." The boy broke down, dropping his flag as his little body shook with sobs. But then something incredible happened. People in the crowd began applauding, some chanting, "USA! USA!" while others simply cried at the sight of a child's grief being honored in such a profound way. A woman stepped forward, placing a comforting hand on Ethan's shoulder. Then another man offered him his own larger flag. Strangers surrounded him, embracing him as if he were their own child. But the moment didn't end there. The captain called for a small launch boat to be lowered. Minutes later, a sailor approached the dock, knelt before Ethan, and handed him a crisp navy cap with golden embroidery. "The captain asked me to give this to you," he said softly. Ethan held the cap with both hands, his tears mixing with a smile for the first time in days. He placed it on his head, far too big for him, but perfect in every way. As the Navy ship finally departed, horns sounding once more, the boy stood taller than ever before. He wasn't just saluting his father anymore. He was saluting every sailor who passed before him, every hero who carried the weight of freedom. And in return, an entire harbor saluted him back. That day, Ethan walked away not alone but surrounded by people who promised to look after him and his mother. And deep inside, he carried a newfound strength, a reminder that kindness, recognition, and unity could heal even the deepest wounds. The captain later wrote in his logbook, One boy reminded us of the true cost of freedom today. His salute will echo longer than any cannon's fire. And so, a little boy's tearful gesture became a beacon of hope. It reminded everyone present that compassion doesn't just honor the past, it shapes the future. Sometimes the smallest salute can shake the mightiest harbor, and sometimes the heart of a child can move the hearts of a nation.